Estoy en mi rinconcito soleado recargando mis baterías. I love the sun. I need the sun. It's been so cold this week, and I have wanted to make a video all week during my lunch hour, but I did not want to go outside. Yesterday it was a little warmer, but it was very windy. But today it is perfect. Well, no, it's about 35 degrees out, but in this little corner it is very sunny, and I need the sun to recharge. Un cuento divertido. El verano pasado tuve un sueño en el que Dios me habló y me dijo que mi nombre verdadero es Sunny. Isn't that funny? I think it's very funny for people who know me, because I don't think most people look at me and say that I have a sunny personality. But ever since I've worked at this job, people have called me bubbly and happy, and actually in the dead of winter, it must have been the week of Christmas, so it really was in the dead of winter. There was a week in there where I was trying to be happy for the holidays coming up, and I was doing my typical complaining to God about how everything I touch just gets screwed up, everything's messed up, nothing's working, and it's very frustrating. And of course I was having a difficult time even getting my proof copy delivered to me of my book, but that was really very minor in a scale of things I could screw up, because that really wasn't my screw up at all. It's funny to me because now if I go on my Amazon order page, it still says delivering hope undeliverable, which is ironic, right? Hope is undeliverable. And that's the title of my book. Anyway, so I was doing my typical complaining to God about how everything I touch just gets messed up and I'm just a big screw up. And for some reason that week, multiple people either called me Sunshine or Sunny, or commented on my sunny personality, which seemed kind of like that dream that I had last summer. And I don't always put a lot of stock into dreams, but I guess I do, because it reminded me of that dream that I had, and I thought it was hilarious. You know, when people call you Sunny and you're like, well, how'd you know my secret name? And they think you're joking, of course, but you're really not, because that's what you dreamed was your secret name. Yeah, it's kind of silly, right? That's not how people in the past have perceived me. It's more like the emotionless robot, the stoic, or the misanthrope. But obviously that's not the way God perceives me, or it's not the way my brain perceives that God perceives me, if you can grasp that, because that's kind of, dreams are either your subconscious. If you're a materialist, you think they're always going to be your subconscious, or they could possibly be, in rare circumstances, God speaking to you, if you believe in God, because a lot of people don't. But I guess it doesn't really matter whether you believe in God. If he exists, then he exists, and he can speak to you in your dreams regardless of what you believe about them. That's the crazy thing about being a human. It doesn't really matter what you believe. Objective reality is what it is, regardless of your perception of it. I think the follow-up that I wanted to make on my last video, speaking of perceptions, I wanted to talk about, okay, so I had put a link in my previous video to my new favorite vlogger. I really do enjoy listening to her because she's funny and she critiques culture and she critiques books and movies, and she does it in a very thoughtful but yet amusing way. What I wanted to bring up was, okay, so after you watch, you know, whenever you watch a certain style of video, then it will change your feed in YouTube. And all of a sudden, all of your, say, I used to listen to Catholic apologetic videos most frequently, and now, of course, I'm seeing all of these videos of people responding to the manosphere or of the manosphere in general. And I really don't want to be in that world. And it got me thinking, I love the fact that the authentic observer makes light of people in the manosphere, but it makes me wonder how she can stay in that world for so long. Maybe because she's young. Same thing with, there's another vlogger named Brittany Venti, and she takes on people like the Irrational Male, who is the most irrational male in the universe. I mean, there are rational men out there, but he doesn't seem to be one of them. Anyway, I don't know how these people stay in that without wanting to just run screaming from their minds, because once you've been there for a while, like, your mind has a hard time getting out of that place. I don't understand it. It's this whole trad wife manosphere world, red pill, whatever. There's all kinds of convergences between those groups. I would like to make a video, actually, maybe I'll do that on Sunday, about what it's really like to be a trad wife. Because if anybody's been one, I have, maybe not in my attitude and way of thinking, but in my actual reality and day-to-day living. I don't think that I could ever, well, I don't know. I don't really know what their attitudes are, the people who are up playing trad wives on social media, because they're just playing a game. It looks like to me they're just play acting or something. They're not, maybe they're the real deal, and I don't know. Who am I to judge? Actually, all human beings are supposed to judge the world. If we didn't, then we wouldn't be able to make rational decisions. It's part of being rational, making judgments about the world. We all do it. We all should do it. And we can even judge based off of appearances, because that is the most obvious outward way to assess a human being, is through their outward appearance. Of course, if we remain in that kind of outward shallow judgment, then we are going to miss a lot about other people and situations, because there's always something deeper. Anyway, I had wanted to respond to something about the manosphere and why anybody would want to remain there, but by the time Friday hits, now I don't want to even talk about it, because why continue to sully my brain and my life with that world view that these people are just, and the red pill manosphere trad wife people, they're just, I don't know, something psychologically wrong with these people. But we're all mentally ill on some level. That's part of being human. It just how mentally ill we are, it depends on whether we get diagnosed, whether we're diagnosable or not. But I guess that's part of what it means to be a fallen human being, is to be not quite mentally sane. We have some kind of ill health. Gosh, it is so, I have my Arctic coat on, and even though the temperature has not even hit 40 degrees, I am still quite hot, because I am in this little sunny corner, and I'm tempted to take my coat off, but that would be too difficult to do while holding my phone, so I'm not going to attempt that. I think I'm going to think of something to talk about, think of something like on the fly to talk about that is much happier to me. And actually, what I was thinking about earlier today, I was thinking about trucks. I know. Why? Well, I mean, I like trucks. I like looking at them. I don't have one, and I probably won't have the kind of truck I ever want, which is a classic truck. I like square-bodied trucks. I think they're beautiful. But I heard someone say the other day, they were talking about trucks and how they're like, oh, you gotta have an F-150 or F-250, and I'm thinking, gosh, F-250, that's getting really fancy there, man. It just reminded me of the world when it really seemed to be a different place, when you were either a Chevy man or a Ford man. But this guy was obviously a Ford man, because he was all about the F-150 or F-250, and that's what you gotta have. But I was thinking about the fact that I gave my delivery driver character for his truck, I gave him a truck that I might like to have, which is a square body Silverado. 1978 was the year. That's like right in sort of the middle about when they started making these trucks. So the Chevy started making square bodies sometimes in the early 70s. I'm not really sure when exactly. And they just got nicer and nicer and more user-friendly throughout the years. And then they stopped making them about, I don't know, 85-ish, I guess. And then the trucks got really boring again. And maybe because I'm an 80s child, maybe that's why I like the square body trucks, because you saw them everywhere and I really like them. But it just got me, just hearing that guy say that the other day, well, you gotta have an F-150 or an F-250. I'm like, okay, that's funny. That just takes me back. But it got me thinking about in Socorro, where, I used to live there in the little tiny town of Socorro, where nobody really has any money. There's a college there, so you have college professors. The college professors are inclined to, I don't know, their wives usually drive Volvos or something. Probably depends on where they came from. Like if they came from San Francisco, then they'll probably drive Volvos. But they always drove like Jeeps or SUVs, especially if they were geology professors. So they'd have like their beard and their cargo shorts and their hiking boots and their Jeeps, and they'd go trundling out into the wilderness doing their geological work. Yeah, that's the professors. But the actual like townie men, there was a while there when they all had to have Dodges. So apparently there isn't just a Ford man or a Chevy man. There's also Dodge men. They had to have Dodge Rams, and they would have like these $50,000 trucks, and have their little trailer house or their old house that's been in their family for 300 years. But I'm probably exaggerating a little bit, but you understand what I'm saying, because Socorro's a very old town. People have been there for hundreds of years. My own family, my mom's family, has been there for almost 200 years, and they're not even like the Spanish. They're like the gringos who came later, but they've still been there for a long time before it was a state, before New Mexico was a state. Anyway, so you know what I'm saying. It's like easier to get a car loan than a house loan, and so a lot of people who want to spend money, they're going to spend money on their cars rather than their houses. And yeah, so those Dodge Rams were really popular there for a while, but I don't remember what kind of, they would have fancy new sedans too, but I don't really pay attention to sedans. Those are just useful family cars. They're not trucks, so they're not like interesting to me to look at. And yeah, I don't know. The Dodge Rams, I suppose, are a decent enough vehicle, but that gets you right out of that sort of Ford Chevy model of human beings. And of course there's the Toyota. Toyotas are a whole nother species of male, apparently, because you have the ones that want like the Toyota Tundra or Tacoma or whatever alliterative word they're using. Maybe those are the poetic types, because Toyota truck, Tundra, etc., those all start with T's. So maybe they're just poetic types. I don't really know. But it did get me thinking about, I don't really care whether my character represents Roswell that much. I want him to have a car that I would like. Then so it's like projection in my books. I give my characters what I might like to have. Although I did ask, the character Wilford in the book is based off of a real person. I asked him, well, what kind of truck would you like your fake fiction character to have? And he actually said a 1965 F-150. I'm like, okay, well, I guess that's what kind of car he would like to have. So that's what he has. And I'm like, gosh, these poor men, that's like the gas mileage on these cars. They're like driving them all over town. Roswell's not that big, thankfully, so that's not too much of an issue. But anyway, so it just got me thinking about that when I was walking around town the other day, because I always walk, I walk every day. And I was walking down one street in particular, and I started noticing the brands on the trucks. And you know what? That street had at least 5 Silverados. So I think Silverados are representative enough in this town anyway, even though my character just has his own thing going. He's his own person. He doesn't have to represent Roswell. I mean, my books are Roswell, very much so. So if you think that's fascinating, if you would like to learn more about Roswell and the aliens, no, I don't have any aliens in this book, but if you would like to learn more about Roswell, you should buy my book, and I will put a link below because I always do. And it's still an offer. If anybody wants a free ebook, all they have to do is put a comment below saying so, and I will give you one. Nobody has taken me up on that yet. All of my handful of viewers that I have, I actually think that most of the people who watch my videos probably are the people that are going to buy my book. They plan on buying it or have already purchased it. So they probably don't want a free one because they're already supporting me, my handful of dedicated, small but dedicated people in my life. I love you so much. I do. Those are not just shallow, meaningless words. Well, they probably are, but we'll let that pass. And I think because I started this late, and even though I didn't talk about much of anything of substance, I'm going to have to end it because I have to get back to work. It's Friday, and all I have to do is finish my work for the day and then go home and play my accordion like I do every day of the week. Yeah, that's fun. I played really terribly yesterday. Speaking of the accordion, I played so terribly. I just, for the record, I'm still listening to that song Que Agonia over and over again. I listen to about 4 or 5 times a day. I think there's probably something wrong with my brain. That is why I need to be a sunnier person. I need to sit out in the sun so that I don't suffer agony so much. Anyway, but the other songs that I've been listening to on repeat lately are by El Fantasma, and they both, gosh, what are they called? They both have Camino in the titles of the songs. I guess that's really poetic, talking about the paths of life. You know, like Caminos de la Vida. That is probably the second song I learned to play on the accordion. It's really, really depressing. Very depressing song. But it's a classic. The El Fantasma songs, you know, those are just different songs with the name Camino. I think one of them is En El Camino, and I think the other one is Agarra El Camino, I think. Anyway, I won't swear to it, but I keep listening to songs over and over again. I've added those to I must listen to these songs 5 times a day. I don't even know why. It's crazy when something just appeals to me, and it's the music, the vocals, and the lyrics at the same time. It's all of those together that appeal to me. I can't really explain it. Anyway, the Los Caminos de la Vida, that song, yeah, it's not very difficult to play on the accordion, so I learned it very early on. Yeah, probably the second song I learned to play. So depressing. I don't recommend it. It's dedicated to single moms, I guess, so that's a nice thing, but why does it have to be so depressing? Why isn't there any hope for them except that they're looking for the exit out of life? I mean, that literally the song says that, you know, they can't find the exit. Well, that's death. Oh my gosh, how depressing. It's the way of the world sometimes, especially when you have a lot of, you know, bad economics, and men have a bunch of children, they can't really support them and they feel hopeless, so they're like, oh, I'm gonna go look for work elsewhere, and then they leave and they never come back. That happened to the Irish. That happened a lot, except that a lot of the Irish came to the United States, which is like a big ocean between Ireland and the US, so a lot of moms were abandoned back in Ireland. Anyway, that happened, and that was kind of a big thing when that song was written, I guess, like lots of single moms, because that's what despair does to good men. It is. And on that really sorry note, I am going to shut this video down.